Hey guys, Brian here from Better Chess Training, and in today's video we are going to be continuing our Climbing the Ladder series and playing a 1450 rated player. And it's quite an instructive game, at least in my opinion, so I hope you enjoy it. Okay, we are in the middle of a game here on the Internet Chess Club. Time control is 15 minutes and with a 10-second increment. And my opponent is rated 1450. So we're continuing on with our Climbing the Ladder series. Now, 1450 is something, not that we always need to be careful. We never want to underestimate our opponent. But now, when we're getting to 1400 plus, a lot of times the opposition is a little tougher in terms of knowing, being a little more aware of their tactics and stuff. So definitely want to be careful, but you should always be careful no matter who your opponent is. Okay, kind of an interesting opening here. He's fianchettoed his bishop on b2 here, and he hasn't really committed to the center. So I have to be careful of how I'm going to proceed. A lot of times it depends. I want to see where he's going to put this bishop because that's going to help determine where I'm going to put my bishop. So see here. In a way, I kind of want to make a non-committal move here, and I think what I'm going to do is play knight b to d7 because that will cover the e4 square. And okay, he's playing e3, which makes me think that he's going to play his bishop out this way. Now, if he does end up playing g3, then these light squares are going to be weak. So, with that in mind, I will now, well, I'm going to go ahead and play c6 first. Now, you may recognize this kind of a Moran formation, this triangle formation here, and it's very flexible, and I play it in a lot of my openings. So, well, the reason I'm doing that is I want to play my bishop to d6, and I don't want this knight to harass me. Okay, now he's playing his knight to e2, so I'm thinking he's preparing some type of push here. I'm going to play bishop to d6, and my idea is I want to play e4 here, or e5, I'm sorry. Okay, here's c4, just as expected. And so I want to play e4 and potentially, or e5 and potentially e4, but my question is, I should probably castle first? I think I might have time to play it, and that will really shut him down here. Uh, and if he takes here, then I take back with the c pawn, and then I have a nice setup here. His knight's a little out of place. Now, if I play e4, and then he decides to play knight to c3, then uh, here I might want to play something like a6 in order to cover this b5 square so that knight can't come and harass me. So e4 looks good, or e5 looks good. Getting my coordinates mixed up here. We're still in the opening phase. The reason I want to play it now is that it's very difficult to play once he plays d4, which is probably what he's thinking. Now you see here that in terms of the opening, his pieces are a little awkward. And what caused this is that he played knight to c3 before he played c4. And you can see now he had to retrack or redeploy in order to do that. So you see here he's still fairly open here. If I can castle, okay, here comes d4, but the problem he has now is that I can now play this move. Okay, so that has a cramping effect, and I have a nice space advantage here in the center. He'll probably play his knight back there, and maybe break with f3 at some point, but I'm liking my position. Now is a great time for me to castle. And now we will see what he does, but there are some ideas here. Okay, playing his knight here to g3 is interesting. Maybe looking to get here, but I don't know if it's a. I do have to be careful here because of his harassment of this knight. Now, something I can play that might be a little annoying to him would be bishop to b4, because then he can't harass me. But I'm actually thinking of moving this knight because this knight to f5 move can be annoying. Although it's not that annoying. I can play my rook out to e8. And then if he plays knight to f5, just drop my bishop back here. Although I would like this square for the knight too, to bring this knight around to 6. Notice this bishop's totally out of play. Well, what I can do is play rook to e8, and then if he plays this knight here, bring my bishop over here even. And then bring my knight down, attacking this knight. So I think rook to e8 in any case is the move to play here. Then I can make a decision on this a little. But while I'm waiting for him to move, just want to remind you, I do have a poll up on my Patreon page. You don't have to be a patron to uh, respond to the poll, but it would be very helpful for me. And the question is, what is your biggest chess struggle? It could be the opening, the middle game, the end game. It could be getting nervous during your play. It could be tactics. It could be making a plan or thought process. I have a few responses there, and then you can comment in the comment section. And that'd be very helpful for me. So if you mind doing that. But back to the game here, I'll put a link to that poll in the description. Okay, so if you're seeing this in December of 2018, then check that out. Okay, let's get back to the game. So he's playing bishop to e2. He finally wants to castle. And here, I can take the opportunity to swing this knight around. Now, the reason why I can do that partly is this knight was here to cover e5, but since I'm not worried about that as much, I can drop it back here and then bring it here where I can think about some attacking ideas, okay, especially if he's going to castle on the king side. Now, f3 is going to be one of his ways to try to break out of this situation, but it might get a little messy for him after, well, should presuppose too much. So knight to f8, and then if he plays f3, well, I can just take because the e3 pawn is hanging. So that was one of the benefits of playing rook to e. Okay, queen two. Now he's thinking. I think he wants to keep his options open. He's seeing my attacking ideas here, and he's looking now to the queen side. But if he does that, if he castles over here, then I've got a5 coming out probably pretty quickly. So looking good here. I think I'm just going to bring my knight up here to d6. And then I've got a lot of ideas here. You know, castles over here, I could even, well, if he castles over there, then I'm definitely going to start looking for ideas over here. So this setup, may recognize a lot of Queen's Gambit declines sometimes get into this type of thing. Um, and it's a nice, I have a nice development. This knight here, just a little, he doesn't have much to do. If that makes sense. Because that f3 is White's main way of trying to break this up. And he can't play it now because of my rook here. At least not right away. In the meantime, my pieces are nicely. Okay, so here, well, he's trying to trade off a little bit. So let's see if there's any way to exploit this. I could just ignore it and then develop my queen. Well, let's see what we can do. He's attacking my knight, and if I take, he's going to um, take with his bishop. However, does that, if I have an attack with queen to g4, knight takes h5, bishop takes h5, and then queen to g4. I'll probably trade here first. And do these trades favor me? They might. The other way I could look at this is trying to see if there's a better way to decline this trade here other than just having him trade here. Well, it definitely gets rid of my knight here is quite a bit better placed than his knight. Maybe knight to. Well, I do have to think about this because he might want to pop that knight over here, although I've got that covered fairly sufficiently as well. So the question for me is there a better way for a was taking here and then playing my queen out here will work or could work, but the question is whether or not the best way, because he's going to trade off these two knights for these two pieces potentially. But then I'll have the two bishops, so that's a decent idea. I don't have a ton of time, so let's go ahead and go for that. I know at the very least it is not losing, which is obviously an important factor to consider. Okay, queen to g4 is my immediate thought, and then he'll probably trade off. So sometimes there's the thought that by trading these pieces off, that somehow he has gained something, or that he'll be closer maybe to drawing. But I'm going to go ahead and play this. But the problem for him is that the rest of his pieces are fairly passive. You know, this bishop is trapped behind his own pawns. This knight won't be able to get out for a little while. And you know, his queen is still stuck in the middle. I can even entertain ideas of now f5 and then f4 start to make some headway here. So he actually has a little bit of not comfortable for him. Okay, he's got to trade. So after I take back, and so should I take back? I'm not going to take back with the f pawn because I want to push this f pawn. So you got to be careful here how you recapture. Recapturing with the queen is what I'm leaning towards, and it's probably fine. But then, does he get away? Is there a way to? Can I even consider taking here on? Taking here on g2, attacking his rook. And let's say he castles. See, and then take back. But then does that just open up the G file for him? I think my previous plan might be something worth looking at, which is take back and then look at f5 and f4. But then he might play g3. Well, that's probably fine too, because then my bishop gets in. So you can see here there's a lot of options, but I should probably play something fairly quickly. Let's just go ahead and I think it's a little too risky to take this G pawn. Even though I'd be winning a pawn, he castles and then gets his rook here, then he's got some type of action over here. It might have been sound, but maybe better to be safe than sorry at least. And I'm still threatening this. So now he still needs to deal with this, and so that's going to give me a move. He plays G3, for example. I can even play something like, okay, he's going to go ahead and castle. Now, the question is it worth 2 pawns here? Queen takes, and then if he brings his rook over here, then I can take this pawn. So I'd be winning 2 pawns. So the question is my king safe enough? And then I'm threatening this pawn too. So is my king safe enough to do that? Queen takes g2, rook here. And the reason why I think it might be okay is that if I take the f pawn, then he doesn't have any cover, or he doesn't have any way to break through without sacrificing a piece on e4. Queen takes g2, rook to g1, queen takes f2, and if he attacks me with the rook again, then I can go back via h4. Am I being too greedy, or is this the way to win? And then I just have to consider, if I take here, what if he does some type of sacrifice with rook takes g7? I think I just take the rook and then scooch my, because he can't get these guys over. Problem. Okay, guys, let's take the risk. Am I missing anything? I don't know. I'm thinking, what if he plays f3 here? I think I'm still okay. I still take it with the pawn. And at any time, I could always drop this bishop back too. So I think I have time to take care of things. Because mind you cannot, it would be a little more dangerous if he had a way to follow up. If you had a way to follow up from this rook to, so I think I can just win a couple pawns here. Okay, now he's protecting this pawn. And now do I just get out of dodge here? So be careful over here. I think now is a good time to drop my queen back. Okay, we're just going to drop our queen back here. Running a little low on time, so I'm going to have to be a little careful here. So I've won 2 pawns. Okay, he's going to attack my queen. And here I can bring this queen over to h6, kind of keeping an eye on this pawn. You can see now that this is looking okay for me. As long as I want to keep this g7 square covered. I can always drop my bishop back here. Okay, now he's bringing this guy over. See, the problem he has is that it's difficult for him to. I have a couple pawns now that I could even shed if I really needed to. My queen is totally safe, or my king, I think, is totally safe here. I'm going to bring my bishop. Part of me is wondering, should I just go ahead and start pushing over here as well? But I have time to do that. I'm going to open up this other front, so he has to worry about this now too. He can't just build up here. But again, I have plenty of coverage, plenty of understanding these pawn breaks and why it was so important to take this f pawn is something that I want you guys to think about. Okay, because these pawns here are, if he takes here, I just take back here, and there's no way for him to. It's going to be difficult for him to get at this. He doesn't have any light square. His light square bishop is gone. I'm covering this square, so he can't bring his queen over. Okay, so it's good to know. Now he might want to try to double up here, but again, I can just drop my bishop back here. I could even think of, okay, so he's going to Plays his queen getting trapped. Okay, I can win another pawn here. Kind of nice. By attacking his queen, moves his queen to c2. It's the only safe square. And then I take here. And then I could even think of exchanging here. So go ahead and do that. Some basic tactics for you. Okay, and now I'm going to win this pawn. Again, he doesn't have a follow-up after rook takes g7 check, so that's why it's perfectly safe. And I could even think about, right now, I can think about exchanging these two pieces, but I don't have to. I can take this pawn too. See, there's a lot of options here. I can take this pawn. I can't take it now because he moved his other rook. So he wants to double up here, and that is fine with me. See, I can play g6 at any. Actually, I can take this pawn because it's protected. But again, maybe I'm being a little too greedy. I only have 2 minutes left too. So again, I have to be careful. Okay, let's bring this bishop out. Okay, and here, well, here I'm skewering his. Skewering his two rooks. So you do have to be careful when you're opening up these files. But as you can see, because all of these pieces are stuck behind his pawns and my pawns, there's no danger here. So that's really why I felt I could get greedy. Okay, you just resigned. Hopefully you guys found that helpful. That was a interesting game in terms of understanding when you can be greedy. Because the other thing is sometimes when you take those pawns, it unleashes his attack. But because he didn't have that pawn break on f3, actually, let's go back and take a look at a couple of those positions. Okay. Okay. This is from the opening moves, and here he already makes a slight inaccuracy, or at least according to what he's gained. And uh, what he plays here is knight to c3. Now the problem here is that later you'll see in the game he wants to play c4, which is the better move. So could have done a lot of things. If with this fianchetto, he could have developed here first, kept things more flexible, for example, and here then played c4. Okay, and of course if I take, there's a bunch of ways he can take back here. Gives him some control over the center. I'm not sure if those are the best moves, but that is the idea. By playing knight to c3, he blocks that. Now, you might see where he plays knight to c3 with the c pawn behind it, but that's if he has his other pawns in the center uh, helping to control the center. So remember that, especially in these double D pawn openings, these knights, you want to make sure they're not blocking the C pawns. Okay, but that's why you need to study the specific openings that you're playing and seeing what pieces go where. So this isn't necessarily an opening course, but just keep that in mind as you're studying your openings. Okay, I wanted to go to this position because I think this was White's big mistake. I think up to this point, Black had maybe a positional advantage, but really the game is still kind of evenish. White can come back in the game. So let's just look at this a little bit. I did some analysis and I wanted to share that with you. And here, I believe, play the best move with knight takes h5. After bishop takes h5, queen to g5, of course, targeting these two pieces with a fork. Okay, and here white exchanged g6, and I took back. And at this point, um, I think already white is at a disadvantage. Okay, for example, if he were to castle, then bishop to h3 is, of course, uh, very dangerous, and white's going to lose material. If white um, tries to play something like g3, then interesting move here is bishop to h3. Okay, and here's the point: is that as we've been mentioning, this f2 pawn is very weak. So let's say white castles, which white probably should do because there's a lot of firepower starting to head over towards the king side. Then a move like queen to f6, just targeting this pawn, is very dangerous because now he cannot bring one of his rooks over. So he has to, for example, defend here. Then at this point, I can move forward with my own queenside ideas. Okay, so and he has to keep a constant eye on this pawn. He cannot, um, for example, it's very difficult for him to break through here because remember this e3 pawn would be hanging as well. So going back, instead of knight to h5, I think white would probably be served well just to castle. If he wants to castle, castling queenside, I think could be a little bit, a little dangerous. I can, for example, start off already with some type of attack here. These pawns are not fixed. Okay, but even if he goes and castles pink side, then there's still a game to be played. This knight kind of blocking things up. Maybe I could attack with my H pawn, but it's there's still more chess to be played. Although I do think again I have a positional advantage at this point already. But you want to be careful. So the lesson here is that before you lash out and try to do something aggressively, you want to make sure that you keep your king safe. Just stick to those basics in the opening and work on your development and not worry too much about being too aggressive until you've kind of taken care of those opening principles of controlling the center, developing your pieces, and getting that king to safety. In this case, he did not do that, and I was able to punish him tactically. Okay, let's for our final position that we're going to review here from the game. We see that I have played a5 to start that inside expansion and attack on white's king. And here, black made a mistake by playing a4, although it seems to make logical sense in terms of trying to stop me from advancing. It loses a pawn tactically. As we saw in the game, I played bishop to b4, queen has to move, and then I win this pawn. Okay, so instead, there's a couple options that I've been looking at, and I'm not sure which one's perfectly the best, but one way might have been to first push my bishop back and lock me out here. So let's say I back this up, and then if he wanted to, he could play a4 because I can no longer attack his queen, but he might want to he has more options from there. So c5 was an option, and here another move that maybe is hard to find, but could be an option would be something like knight to f1, okay, which protects this pawn. It also gives this queen a little more room to move. So after I say play bishop to b4, which I don't know if would be appropriate to do here, now his queen can move along this rank as well. But the key thing here is that e pawn is protected. So this position, let's go back to the game position, still winning. I mean, I have quite a bit of an advantage here, but in defense, my opponent could have picked better moves. Well, so think about that in your games. So even if you are at a disadvantage, if you feel that you're behind in the game, you still want to make the most accurate moves possible because then your opponent gives your opponent a chance maybe to not follow up as accurately and give you a chance to get back into the game. And I've had that many times in my chess career, as well as just seeing master games where the opponent was one player was losing, but because they played very tenaciously, their the person with the advantage overextended and ended up losing the game. So hang tough even when you're down a bit. Obviously, it's better if you never get to that point in the first place, but till the game is over, to try to play as accurately as possible, even behind. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, hit that like button and leave a comment. Let me know what you thought. Also, if you are new to the channel, Better Chess Training is about helping you to improve your chess. So if that's something you're looking to do, consider subscribing for future updates. Also, if you are watching this video in December of 2018, I'm doing a year-end poll. What is your biggest chess struggle? It is on my Patreon page, but you don't have to be a patron to participate in the poll. So the link will be in the description below. So please check that out. It will help me to plan future episodes here on the channel, as well as other content that I am developing and brainstorming for 2019. So check out that poll and please participate. And finally, we have a couple weeks left in 2018. I hope that you guys make the most out of it. I hope you've had a great year, and I'm looking forward to an even better 2019. I want to give a thanks to everyone who's subscribed to this channel and watches these videos. I hope that it's helped you with your chess, and looking forward to seeing you in future videos. Have a great day.